Hello dear learners, welcome to this SWAYAM NPTEL online course on inclusive education. I am Dr. Umakant Prasad, an assistant professor from Department of Education, Vishwabharati Shantiniketan. Today we are going to discuss lecture number 27, that is the Rights of Persons with Disabilities Act 2016. During this lecture, we will discuss historical background of the Rights of Persons with Disabilities Act 2016, the objectives of the Act, the total disabilities, that is 21 covered under the Act, and the chapters covered under the RPWD Act. The Rights of Persons with Disabilities Act 2016 is a transformative legislation in India. It replaced the earlier PWD Act 1995. It is a fundamental shift from a welfare based approach to a right based model for persons with disabilities. This act acknowledges that disability is a part of human diversity and persons with disabilities are valuable part of mainstream society and they deserving the equal rights and opportunities. The RPWD Act 2016 is rooted in the principles of United Nations Conventions on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, which India ratified in 2007. Its primary goal is to ensure that persons with disabilities can live with dignity and participate fully and effectively in all aspects of life. The Act significantly expanded the definition of disability, increasing the recognized categories from 7 to 21. This broader scope includes conditions like cerebral palsy, autism, spectrum disorder and acid attack victims, ensuring a wider range of individuals are covered and protected under this Act. The law mandates accessibility in all public and private spaces, including buildings, transportation and information and communication technology. It also increases reservation for people with benchmark disabilities in government jobs and higher education. The Act introduces specific provisions for the protection of women and children with disabilities and creates a strong legal framework with designated special courts and regulatory bodies to address grievances and monitor its implementation. Let us discuss the history of RPWD Act. The RPWD Act 2016 is a significant step in India's disability rights history, marking a fundamental change in how disability is viewed and addressed. The earlier Act, that was PWD Act 1995, before 2016 the main legislation governing disability rights in India was the PWD Act 1995. This was a landmark law for its time as it was India's first comprehensive legislation for persons with disabilities. However, it has several limitations, such as the PWD Act 1995 viewed people with disabilities from a social welfare perspective, treating them as beneficiary of government schemes rather than citizens with inherent rights. It recognized only 7 types of disabilities, leaving many conditions uncovered and unprotected. While it spoke about things like a barrier free environment, it did not provide clear guidelines or timelines for implementation, making enforcement difficult. The legal and institutional framework for addressing grievances was not as strong as it needed to be. The driving force for change was the UNCRPD, that is United Nations Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, that was held in 2007, and that is the driving force for the RPWD Act. The turning point came when India signed and ratified this convention in 2007. This international treaty shifted the focus from a medical model of disability to a social model. By ratifying United Nations Conventions on Rights of Persons with Disabilities, India committed to bringing its national laws into compliance with the Convention's principles, which include respect for inherent dignity and individual autonomy, non-discrimination, full and effective participation in society, accessibility. This commitment set the stage for a new and more progressive law, and that was come in the terms of RPWD Act. The making of the RPWD Act. The process of drafting a new law started in 2010. After years of consultations, debates and revisions, the Rights of Persons with Disabilities Bill 2014 was introduced in Parliament. It was passed by the Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha in December 2016. The new law, that is RPWD Act 2016, came into force on 15 June 2017, officially replacing the earlier PWD Act 1995. The new act reflects the modern right-based approach of UNCRPD. It not only expanded the definition of disability, but also introduced a stronger legal framework to ensure people with disabilities can enjoy their rights on an equal basis with others. The objectives of RPWD Act. The primary aim of the RPWD Act is to create an inclusive, barrier-free and right-based society for persons with disabilities in India. It moves beyond a charity-based approach and establishes disability as a matter of human rights. The first objective is upholding dignity and equality. The most fundamental aim of RPWD Act is to ensure that all persons with disabilities live with dignity and respect, just like everyone else. It directly addresses discrimination by stating that no person should be discriminated against solely on the basis of their disability. This is a significant shift as it legally protects them from prejudice and unfair treatment in all aspects of life. Expanding the scope of disability. The Act aims to provide protection to a much wider range of people by expanding the list of recognized disabilities. It increased the number of disabilities from 7 to 21. This includes conditions like physical disability, that is blindness, low vision, leprosy, cured, locomotor disability, mental disability, that is mental illness, intellectual disability, and autism spectrum disorder, chronic neurological conditions and blood disorders, that is multiple sclerosis, Parkinson disease, hemophilia, thalassemia and sickle cell disease. New additions like acid attack victims, dwarfism and specific learning disabilities has been also added in the Act. This broader definition acknowledges that disability is an evolving and dynamic concept, recognizing the diverse challenges that is faced by persons with disabilities. The third objective is promoting inclusive education. The Act aims to make education accessible and inclusive for every child with disability. The provisions include right to free education. Every child with a benchmark disability, that is 40% of disability between the age 6 to 18 years old, has the right to free and compulsory education. Inclusive environments. Educational institutions are mandated to provide an inclusive environment, which means offering necessary support like special educators, assistive devices and modified teaching methods. Accommodations in examinations. Students with disabilities are entitled to suitable modifications in curriculum and examination system, such as extra time or the facility of a writer. Reservations. The Act reserves 5% of seats for persons with benchmark disabilities in all government and government aided higher education institutions. Ensuring equal employment opportunities. The RPWD Act seeks to empower persons with disabilities to achieve financial independence and participate in workforce. Reservation in jobs. It increases the reservation for persons with benchmark disabilities in government jobs from 3 to 4%. Earlier it was 3% in PWD Act 1995. Non-discrimination. Employers cannot discriminate against persons with disabilities in hiring, promotion or other employment related matters. Reasonable accommodations. Both public and private employers are required to provide reasonable accommodations like accessible workplaces and accessory devices to help employees with disabilities perform their duties effectively. The fifth objective is creating a barrier-free environment. A major goal of the Act is to make the physical world and public services accessible to all. This is crucial for enabling persons with disabilities to move around freely and independently. Such as accessible infrastructure. The Act mandates that all public buildings, including government offices, schools, hospitals and transportation, be made accessible with ramps, elevators and accessible washrooms. Accessible information. It promotes providing information in accessible formats like braille, large prints and audio, and ensuring that communication technologies are usable by everyone. Accessible India campaign. The Act supports the Accessible India campaign, which is a nationwide initiative to make public spaces and services universally accessible for persons with disabilities. The sixth objective is establishing a robust support system. The Act aims to create a strong legal and institutional framework to ensure its effective implementation. A special courts. It mandates the establishment of special courts in each district to handle cases related to the violation of rights of persons with disabilities. Grievance redressal. The Act strengthens the role of the chief commissioners for persons with disabilities and state commissioners to act as regulatory bodies and address grievances. Joint decision making. It introduces the concept of limited guardianship, which promotes joint decision making between a guardian and a person with a disability, respecting the individual's will and preference. There are total 21 disabilities, those are covered under RPWD Act. The Rights of Persons with Disabilities Act 2016 is a landmark legislation in India. A key feature of the Act is its expanded and more inclusive list of disabilities, which increased the number from 7 in the previous PWD Act 1995 Act to 21 in the new RPWD Act. This was a crucial setup in recognizing a wider range of challenges that people face and ensuring that they are entitled to legal protection and support. The first disability is physical disability. There is a category that is physical disability. This category includes conditions that affects a person's physical body, limiting their movements, senses and other bodily functions. The first disability is locomotor disability. Under this category, A person has difficulty with physical movement such as walking, standing or using their hands. This can be caused by problems with bones, joints or muscles, for example, due to polio, cerebral palsy or accidents. Leprosy cured persons. A person who has been cured of leprosy, but has physical deformities such as a loss of sensation in their hands or feet, and the infection cannot be transmitted. The act ensures they are not discriminated against. The third disability is dwarfism, a medical or genetic conditions that results in a person's adult height being 4 feet 10 inches, that is 147 centimeter or less. The Act recognizes this as a disability to ensure they get proper support and are not socially excluded. The fourth disability is muscular dystrophy, a group of inherited disorders that cause progressive weakness and loss of muscles mass. It is a condition that gets worse over time, and the Act recognizes the need for ongoing support. Acid attack victims, people who have been disfigured or have had their body parts severely damaged due to a violent assault with acid or a similar corrosive substance. The Act specifically includes them to ensure that they get legal protection, compensation and rehabilitation. The next one is blindness, a person who has a total absence of sight or very low vision even with the best possible corrections. Low vision, a person with very limited sight where they have some vision, but it is not enough for them to perform daily activities without assistance. Hearing impairment, this is a broad category that includes both deaf, that is severe to profound hearing loss, and hard of hearing, that is partial hearing loss. Speech and language disability, a person who has a permanent disability that makes it difficult for them to speak clearly or to understand and use language effectively. The next disability is cerebral palsy, a condition caused by brain damage before, during or shortly after birth, which affects muscle control and coordination. It does not get worse over the time, but it can cause significant physical challenges. Multiple sclerosis, a condition where the immune system attacks the protective covering of nerves, causing communication problems between the brain and the rest of the body. Symptoms can vary and may include vision loss, pain and fatigue. The next disability is Parkinson's disease, a progressive nervous system disorder that affects movement. Symptoms often start gradually and can include tremors, stiffness and difficulty with balance. There is another category, that is intellectual and mental disability. This category includes conditions that affect a person's thinking, learning and behavior. Under this category, intellectual disability, that is a person has a significant limitation in both intellectual functioning and adaptive behavior. This disability begins before the age of 18 years. The next disability is mental illness, a substantial disorder of thinking, mood, perception, orientation or memory that impairs a person's judgment, behavior or ability to meet the demands of everyday life. This can include conditions like schizophrenia or severe depression. The Act explicitly separates this from intellectual disability, which is crucial distinction. The next disability is autism spectrum disorder, that is a neurodevelopmental condition that affects a person's social interaction, communication and behavior. Persons with autism spectrum disorder often have a specific interest and may be sensitive to sensory input. Specific learning disabilities. It is a group of conditions that affect a person's ability to learn and use information. This can include dyslexia, that is difficulty with reading, dysgraphia, that is difficulty with writing, or dyscalculia, that is difficulty with mathematics. The next disability is chronic neurological conditions. It lists conditions like Alzheimer's disease, Parkinson's disease, dystonia, Huntington's disease, neuromuscular disease, multiple sclerosis and epilepsy within the definition of disabilities. These conditions are recognized as disabling illness affecting a significant portion of the population. The next category is blood disorders. These are conditions that affect a person's blood and can have a significant impact on their health and daily life, such as thalassemia, an inherited blood disorder where the body produces an abnormal form of hemoglobin leading to anemia and other health problems. Hemophilia, an inherited medical condition where the blood does not clot properly leading to excessive bleeding even from a minor injury. Sickle cell disease, an inherited blood disorder where red blood cells are shaped like a sickle, that is crescent moon, causing them to get stuck in blood vessels and leading to pain, infections and organ damage. The last disability is multiple disabilities. This is the final category for people with disabilities who face challenges from more than one disability at the same time. This refers to a combination of two or more of the specified disabilities. For example, deaf blindness, a combination of hearing and visual impairment, is specifically mentioned because it requires unique support and communication methods. By including these 21 disabilities, the RPWD Act 2016 ensures that a wider population of persons with disabilities can access the rights, reservations and the facilities they are entitled to take. Now, let us discuss the chapters of RPWD Act. The Rights of Persons with Disability Act 2016 is a comprehensive piece of legislation with 17 chapters that outlines the rights and entitlements of persons with disabilities in India. The Act moves away from a welfare based model and adopts a human rights based approach, ensuring that persons with disabilities can lead a life of dignity and equal opportunity. The first chapter is preliminary. This is the introductory chapter. It defines key terms used throughout the Act, such as persons with disability, a specified disability, reasonable accommodation and universal design, etc. It is essential for understanding the rest of the Act because it sets the foundation for all the rights and duties that needs to be followed. This is also where the list of 21 disabilities is officially specified. The second chapter is rights and entitlements. This chapter is the heart of the Act. It lays down the fundamental rights of persons with disabilities. It guarantees them the right to equality, a life with dignity and respect. It also includes specific rights such as protection from abuse and violence, ensuring a safe environment and rescue and rehabilitation for victims. Reproductive rights, that is guaranteeing access to information and family planning and provision for sterilization. The next one is accessibility in voting, that is mandate that all polling stations and electoral materials are accessible for persons with disabilities. Next is access to justice, ensuring that persons with disabilities can access courts and other legal bodies without discrimination. Next, legal capacity and guardianship. RPWD Act also provides legal capacity and guardianship and introducing the concept of limited guardianship, which promotes joint decision making between a guardian and a person with disability, respecting the individual's well-being. Chapter 3 is related to education. This chapter focuses on making education inclusive and accessible to all. It places a duty on all educational institutions to provide an inclusive environment for students with disabilities. Free education. The Act provides the right to free education for children with benchmark disability between ages 6 to 18 years old. Inclusive measures. The Act requires schools to provide necessary support such as special educators, assistive devices and appropriate language and communication models like Braille and sign language that is required for persons with disabilities. Adult education, it includes provisions for the participation of persons with disabilities in adult education programs and higher education. Chapter 4 is related to skill development and employment. This chapter aims to ensure equal employment opportunities and economic empowerment. There are many things that has been discussed under the chapter, that is in terms of non-discrimination. It prohibits discrimination in all aspects of employment including hiring and promotion. Equal opportunities policy, it mandates government establishments to formulate a policy to ensure equal opportunities for persons with disabilities. Grievance redressal officer, it requires every establishment to appoint a special officer to handle complaints related to employment discrimination for persons with disabilities. Reservation, it also reserves 4% of government job for persons with benchmark disabilities. The fifth chapter is social security, health, rehabilitation, recreation. This chapter covers a broad range of social and welfare measures such as social security. It directs the government to provide special schemes, benefits and support services to ensure a decent standard of living. Health care, it ensures that persons with disabilities have access to affordable health care including rehabilitation services and that medical professionals are trained in disability related issues. Recreation, it also promotes participation in cultural and recreational activities and sports. Chapter 6 is a special provision for persons with benchmark disability. This is a crucial chapter that provides additional benefits and privileges for those with benchmark disability, such as higher education that reserve 5% of seats in government and government aided higher education institutions. Incentives, it encourages private sector employers to hire persons with disabilities by offering incentives. The seventh chapter is a special provision for persons with disability in high support needs. This chapter acknowledges that some people need more intensive support to live independently. It provides for appointment of a high support authority to assist individuals with severe disability in making decisions and living in the community. The chapter 8 is duties and responsibilities of appropriate governments. This chapter outlines the specific duties of central and state governments as well as the local governments to implement this act. It includes responsibilities like awareness campaign, such as conducting campaign to promote the rights of persons with disabilities, accessibility, such as ensuring that all public infrastructure, transportation and services are made accessible and available in a time bound manner and in line with the Accessible India campaign for persons with disabilities. Human resource development, that is training professionals and staffs to work with persons with disabilities. The next chapter is registration of institutions for persons with disabilities and grants. This chapter deals with the regulation of institutions that work with persons with disabilities. It makes it mandatory for such institutions to be registered and outlines the process of receiving government grants. Chapter 10 is certification of specified disabilities. This chapter explains the process of obtaining a disability certificate. The certificate is a crucial document that allows a person to access all the benefits and rights under the Act. It describes who can issue these certificates and the procedure to be followed. The 11th chapter is Central and State Advisory Boards on Disability. This chapter mandates the creation of national level and state level advisory bodies. These boards are responsible for advising the government on policies and programs related to persons with disabilities and monitoring the implementation of the Act. Chapter 12 is Chief Commissioner and State Commissioners for persons with disabilities. This chapter establishes the role of the Chief Commissioner of India at national level and the state commissioners in every state. These officials act as a main regulatory authorities. Their primary function is to protect the rights of persons with disabilities and addresses their grievances. Chapter 13 is special courts. This chapter provides for the establishment of special courts in each district to hear and decide on cases related to the violation of the Act. This ensures quick and fair justice for persons with disabilities. Chapter 14 is and 15 as well national and state funds for persons with disabilities. These chapters details the creation and management of dedicated funds at both at national level and at state levels. The money in these funds is used to provide financial assistance, scholarships and support services to persons with disabilities. Chapter 16 is offences and penalties. This chapter specifies the punishment for various offences under the Act, such as violation of its provisions or fraud claiming benefits. This gives the Act legal teeth and makes it enforceable. The last chapter is miscellaneous, that is chapter number 17. The final chapters covers a range of other provisions, including the power of the government to make rules and to repeal of the old Persons with Disabilities Act 1995 and other related matters. In conclusion, we can say the RPWD Act 2060 is a progressive and comprehensive law that aligns India with international standards. While its full implementation is an ongoing process with challenges to overcome, the Act provides the essential legal and more meaningful framework to build a truly inclusive society where persons with disabilities can participate fully and equally, reaching their full potential. It serves as a powerful tool to transform lives and ensure that no one is left behind. There are some references here. Thank you.